Chapter 62. The Dagger in the Map. Hearing Long Wenyu's whispered complaints, countless people's faces also changed for a while. Obviously, they were also extremely ashamed. King Shikong had done this to An openly. It shouldn't be. How could King Shikong make a mistake in this matter? For a meeting between two countries, where would one ask the other party to chip in? This is too rude. King Shikong, he's not so stingy with this bit of food, is he? The whole city was in hot discussion. Sima Changkong and Long Shengwu were also looking at the sky screen in confusion. What's going on here? In the Wuyu Academy. After slaughtering the beasts for a period of time, the banquet was slowly set up and opened. Only, at this moment, the Dayuan group of ministers were all without honor on their faces and did not speak at this moment. Gu Hai, Long Wenyu, Sima Feng, Li Shenji and the others were also very puzzled and unsure. All of you, please sit down, King Shikong invited as he sat at the seats. Everyone nodded and sat down. King Shikong's heart was also grasping for energy. After all, the banquet just now was done to An openly, not being able to press Dakian head-on, but instead, he himself was lowered ahead, and next, he could not afford to mess up again. This time, this king is not well thought out. Here, a toast to the great Qian emissary. To compensate for just now rude, King Shikong raised his glass. Everyone raised their cups. The crowd shared a drink. Mr. Gu, thank you for the banquet. Just to say, today, my Wuyu Academy feasted without food. But there is a reason for Mr. Gu. King Shikong laughed. Heh, King Shikong. I also did not expect I with the county princes just arrived. In the metropolis, you greeted unfavorably, but you blame it on my head. Is it you alone who is like this? Or is the Dayuan style just like this? Gu Hai, however, was furious and laughed. Shikong, brother-in-law, and I just arrived. You couldn't set up a banquet yourself, and you're blaming us. What the hell, Long Wenyu glared. Li Shenji sat on the side, but smiled without saying anything. At this moment, the people in the city were also looking at King Shikong speechlessly. Yeah, blaming Gu Hai for this. Isn't this a joke? King Shikong, however, did not hurry and said, just dozens of days ago, Wuyu Academy called to shady and deceitful villains. It should have eliminated the evil. However, the two of them said that they were Mr. Gu's closest friends and said that Mr. Gu had asked them to do that. This king thought that Mr. Gu is also the Lord of Great Han. In the way of Mr. Gu's face, this king did not dispose of them and placed in the Wuyu Academy all good food and drink to cope with. I do not want to. But they ate up all the food in the Wuyu Academy, which led to today's embarrassment. Oh, Gu Hai said doubtfully. Bring them up, King Shikong called out. The crowd looked over in confusion, but they saw that at this moment, a fat and a thin figure were being held captive by chains and brought above the square. Shikong, you old thing, what are you tying us up for? You said that you would serve us with good wine and good food, but you locked us up. You're not keeping your word. The two of them immediately cursed angrily. Huh, it's Ziwei and Chongsheng. Long Wenyu was surprised. Hearing Long Wenyu's words, King Shikong's eyes also lit up. County Lord Wenyu, you know them. Of course, Long Wenyu shouted. Mr. Gu, you know them too. King Shikong suddenly smiled and looked at Gu Hai. Gu Hai saw the two. The two also saw Gu Hai. Gu Hai, you came. Gu Hai, quickly talk to him and remove this chain. It's so uncomfortable with thousands of pounds in it. Ziwei and Chongsheng shouted at once. Gu Hai looked at the duo. At this moment, King Shikong was staring at Gu Hai, waiting for his reply. Not bad, they are my friends, Gu Hai nodded. Hey ha 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 ha. Then I haven't wronged Mr. Gu. King Shikong laughed. May I, first, unlock the chains on my two friends? Gu Hai frowned. Unkind them, King Shikong said cheerfully. Wow. The chains were unlocked and Ziwei and Chongsheng instantly jumped to Gu Hai's side. Gu Hai, he's not a good person. The duo sniped at Gu Hai. Hey, not a good thing. I think the two of you are the villains. King Shikong's eyes went cold. What did you say? Ziwei glared. Oh, King Shikong, these two friends of mine, where did they offend you? Gu Hai frowned. Does Mr. Gu really want to hear it? King Shikong sneered. I wish to hear it. These two friends of mine, even though they are more spontaneous, they can't afford to be slandered at will, right? Gu Hai sneered. Gu Hai had long felt that King Shikong intended to target himself, but, instead of retreating, he greeted him with an icy face. Let's start with today's wine banquets. Li Gang, you say it. King Shikong said in a deep voice. Yes, Li Gang, who had set up the wine banquets earlier, came forward. I was unable to set up the wine banquet, not for any other reason. But these two, they said they were friends of Mr. Gu. So the king did his best to entertain them. And so the ingredients from the Wuyu Academy were at their disposal to feed them, Li Gang explained. As much as they can eat, Long Wenyu's eyes glared. Long Wenyu was aware of these two people's appetites. This King Shikong was too generous, right? Let them eat. When King Shikong saw Long Wenyu's expression, his heart was certain. Not bad. The king casually ate with them, however. The food stored in the Wuyu Academy for millions of people to eat and drink. All of it has been eaten by them in this nearly 1 month's time. There is nothing left. Not even a little bit, Li Gang explained. Hiss, the group of ministers present sucked in a cold breath. 1 million portions of food, eaten up by 2 people in a month. Are you kidding? Not only the ministers, the people in the city who were watching the live broadcast also stared wide-eyed, as if they wanted to see these two people through to the end. Are these two people rice bucket demons? Long Wenyu's face was slightly red. Gu Hai was slightly surprised in his heart, but quickly suppressed the shock in his heart. Luckily he didn't bring the two back to Keoj. Mr. Gu, you say, this matter, isn't there also a reason for you? King Shikong smiled and looked at Gu Hai. Gu Hai looked at the duo. The duo stammered for a moment and did not speak. Gu Hai instantly understood, but at this moment he could not give King Shikong the lead. Ziwei, Chongsheng, have you had enough to eat these days? Gu Hai, however, laughed. Fed up? How could it be? When have they ever fed me enough? Ziwei instantly glared and shouted. Gu Hai, however, twisted his head to look at King Shikong. Thank you, King Shikong, for your hospitality. It's really hard for you to do this for almost a month, chained and bound, and not letting them eat their fill. Heh. And making up 1 million portions of food for them to eat up. What an awesome imagination. To people eating 1 million servings. Hey. Gu Hai laughed softly, but the meaning was obvious. Who are you fooling? As expected, a large portion of the 200 million people watching the live broadcast immediately looked at King Shikong with a black face. How can King Shikong be like this? You can't slander to people like this. Yes, isn't this a breach of my Doyuan's etiquette? To people, eating the food of 1 million people. Just kidding. I don't believe it even if I die. The group of ministers were talking. On the square of Wuyu Academy, a group of officials also looked disbelieving, frowning at Li Gang and King Shikong. King Shikong's face stiffened and glared fiercely at Li Gang. He himself was almost tricked by Li Gang. Who would believe this excuse? Your Highness, what I said is true. They really ate it all, Li Gang said with tears in his eyes. Take them down. King Shikong glared and drank, no longer trusting Li Gang. You two, speak up. I'm not lying, I'm not. Li Gang was dragged down by a group of generals. Ziwei and Chongsheng picked their teeth, ignoring Li Gang's cries for help. Do you really think we're stupid? The truth is out, but I'm still curious. These two friends of mine, why did you lock them up? Gu Hai said in a deep voice. Yeah, why? Chongsheng instantly drank. Ha ha ha, why, a few months ago, west of the city, a secular mortal area, to a demon girl. Do not know what kind of demonic practice. Sinning in 4 directions, that side of the region, 1,000 miles of drought, locusts flying. The people are easy to eat, miserable. The king got the news, bring a large amount of food to use for disaster relief, suddenly encountered the demon girl. The king wants to do harm to the people, pull the bow that shot the demon girl. But was the 2 men, a golden hammer smashed in the head, the arrow feathers deflected away from, so that the demon girl escaped. You know, there are millions of secular people are. These 2 people backstabbing, not ashamed, but think it is honorable. They even said they were instructed by Mr. Gu. Because of Mr. Gu's face, I have kept them until now. Mr. Gu, do you think these 2 friends, are they sinister villains? King Shikong sneered. Instructed by Gu Hai, the crowd of officials around them revealed a moment of doubt. A demoness scourging the common people. I've heard about it. That the people have the offspring of a distant relative of mine. The king went to provide relief, but was attacked by a villain. Releasing the culprit. Gu Hai ordered it, as expected. What man meets what friend? Gu Hai is really a villain too. The 200 million people in the city were instantly filled with righteous indignation. Gu Hai, however, looked at Ziwei and Chongsheng in confusion. I wanted you guys to do this. Yes. The demoness he was talking about is Fairy Wunna, Ziwei explained. As soon as Ziwei explained, Gu Hai's expression suddenly changed, and he turned his head to look at King Shikong. Mr. Gu, it was you who instructed this. Heh, I ordered it, Gu Hai sneered. In the middle of the city, Fairy Wunna bit her lips as her face turned ugly for a while. Because, at this moment, in the 4 directions of the restaurant, nearly everyone was abusing Gu Hai, calling him a villain. Oh, a hint of joy appeared in King Shikong's eyes. But King Shikong is sure that the disaster in that mortal region was the work of my friend, Gu Hai said in a deep voice. That demon girl is your friend. King Shikong smiled even more smugly. It's my friend, but I think you should have misunderstood her. There's no way she could have done such a thing, Gu Hai coldly said. Heh, since it's your friend, then forget about it. Forget about those 4 now. This king has nothing to do. He likes to write some things. This time, Mr. Gu has come all the way here. This king also sends Mr. Gu and the 2 of you a pair of characters, King Shikong sneered. Clapping his hands, instantly, someone brought a pair of scrolls and handed them to Gu Hai. Ah, isn't this that pair of characters, to the Han returning army? Yes, it's that pair of words. I was beside you when the king wrote it. It's a poem cursing Gu Hai. To give this poem cursing Gu Hai in front of Gu Hai. The surrounding officials were all of a sudden murmuring, looking at King Shikong with surprised faces. This was to insult Gu Hai, and these 2 as villains to their faces. The figure is poor. This is to step on Gu Hai.